surveying staff members, 80% of staff members or people in the industry say, if there was better mental health support, there would be an improvement in my performance.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Body Bangin podcast season 2. We are excited to be back with you, and we are going to have a conversation today that I think needs to be talked about more in our industry. So, who better to have on than my buddy, the one and only Andy Tylka? What's up, Andy? The crowd goes wild.
How are you?
Good. You guys probably know Andy. He's at every event. I feel like everywhere I go, I bump into him. He's like writing magazine articles, being interviewed, social media. Like, I just feel like we're like total buds. Like, I see you all the time.
That's what I'm here for. I think, luckily my wife is so accepting for me to be on the road so much. Yeah, I like it. It's the part that I need to play in the industry.
Right? We all have our roles. We all have our piece. So for those of you that don't know Andy, he's kind of a master of all trades. So he's on the board of SCRS. He's past president of the Indiana Auto Body Association. He's also the head dude for Tag Auto Group. And that's based out of Indiana, right?
Yeah, we have the collision centers where we have Indiana and Illinois. And then the calibration centers were multi-state.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking with Andy before we started. It's crazy. The growth Andy has gone through is just insane. So you're now up to 15 collision centers, 8 calibration centers. He's got glass. He's got towing. I mean, at this point, you're doing it all.
And a partridge in a pear tree. I might drive my leadership team a little insane with kind of the diversity we have, but we do it really well, I feel like. And, it's nice not to have our blinders on and kind of see the whole picture in the collision process.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're going to have Andy back on because I want to get into their processes and scaling and all that kind of stuff. And he's just an expert in so many things. But one thing that really hit me that was so different is Andy came out. That didn't come out the way I meant it. He shared so openly in a magazine article about the mental health issues that he dealt with. So I was reading this article and I've seen Andy around. I know Andy, we've chatted. We go to a lot of the same things. We're in the industry. Like, you feel like you know somebody, not like we hang out and I know, I don't know his family, all the details, but I'm reading this article where he's talking about his mental health challenges, what he went through, and reading through some statistics. And I was like, we need to talk about this on the podcast because, Andy, you personally have been through your own mental health issues that you spoke about in the article. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that with people listening so we kind of have a baseline of where we're starting from?
Oh, for sure. And, it's a struggle today, almost as much as it was yesterday. I think I own it better. But I didn't really acknowledge that I had, mental health. There's a stigma, right? And we talk about it, just understanding the mental health aspect of somebody, and understanding that, hey, maybe the stuff that I'm going through now, or my mental state, it's not just something I can control. Maybe it's something that I can't control, or I need to acknowledge, or be cognitive, or be a little different to be able to manage these situations. So, I struggled a lot through school, through my 20s, through my 30s, and really not realizing and acknowledging mental health until probably about 8 or 9 years ago.
Wow.
So there was, so understanding that I was going through in the past, ADHD,
Yeah.
I just thought that school, high school, college, all that stuff was just normally impossible.
Yeah.
And so I really wish, when I actually I found out, ADHD, and I was actually medicated properly, I was like, holy crap. Like this is actually what the world is like,
Right.
where I can actually hear something and possibly retain it, or this or that.
Mm.
Um, but there's depression, there's anxiety, there's
Yeah.
just having a rough mental day.
Yeah.
There's home life, there's so many things. And bipolar. I feel like I'm that checklist of
Mm.
every situation. Now, I don't point to it and blame it,
Yeah.
but it's a part of me, and
Right.
I acknowledge it and I own it. And it's just been a part of my history. And I am a little bit medicated, but I'm also afraid of medication to a
Mm.
point, because I've had a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, so
Mm.
on. So I'm very careful. So
Yeah.
am I fully medicated, probably to where I should be? No, but
Mm.
I'm much better than I was off. And it's still a struggle every single day, but it's where
Yeah.
I want to be.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think what touched me so much in the article was you even saying outwardly and openly, because, like you said, there is a stigma around speaking about it. And especially as a man in our culture, to speak about difficulties that are emotional, mental, it's like it's considered a weakness in some people's mind. And it's
That's
like,
exactly it. Yeah.
right. And then there's the embarrassment and the shame then that goes with it, and you can't talk about it. So I'm sure you dealt with all of that.
I own, sure, it could be a negative aspect, about me, but once again, I own it, to the point it defines kind of part of my personality and who I am. But you're right, like especially the male population, they're worried that their peers are going to see them as it's a weakness of going
Yes.
through a tough time, or the whole suck it up buttercup type thing.
Right.
Or it's the being afraid to be judged. And especially in this industry,
Mm,
all of us have a product to sell or a service to sell.
hmm.
And are we worried that if we come out with certain things or more transparent with ourselves, are we going to be judged by our peers or our customers,
Yeah.
and not be able to thrive the way we want? And I feel like that's a myth. I feel like
Yes.
transparency and being ourselves,
Yeah.
is really important. But I think what helps me be transparent is I know that it helps others. I
Yes.
know it encourages others to be transparent, and that's more of my inspiration more than anything.
Mm. Yes, the concern is, and I've dealt with similar, where the concern is you feel like your value is diminished if you're being real that you have struggles. Like if I don't act as if everything's perfect and put together, that's why people value me, because I've just got it all together and it's all perfect. And if they see the struggles and what's really going on, they're not going to value me as much anymore. They're going to think less of me. And I have found in sharing my issues with anxiety, my health issues that I've had because of anxiety and just depleting my body, when I share those things, I was shocked that people embraced me with open arms. They didn't shun me. And that was my expectation, that I was going to be shunned and embarrassed by it. And it was so heartwarming to feel that and to know that. And I don't think you actually get a chance to experience it until you give somebody the opportunity to share and just be vulnerable and be like, hey, this is it, this is just what's going on. It takes a lot of strength to get to that point because of the stigma, because of the worry.
And what's great about being transparent is actually it prevents people judging. And
Mm.
kind of what I mean by that is, okay, so today I'm super fidgety. I'm going to be talking with my hands. I move around. I'm swaying. I'm whatever. And I acknowledge that. And like, there's a lot of times when I have conversation with people, I can't look them in the eye. I'm like all over the place, or so on.
Right.
People might think I'm being disrespectful because I'm not
Mm.
looking at them or paying attention to them. So when you're honest with somebody, they lose that judgment of,
Yes.
hey, that person's not listening, or I do care. I am
Right.
listening, but I also have to multitask to actually absorb the information that
Yeah.
you're telling me,
Right.
or just having a freaking bad day,
Yeah.
of just I'm down today, communicate that, and people might think, hey, he's instead of him being lazy or him not
Mm.
caring,
Hmm.
the guy's just having a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be better tomorrow. Just having
Yeah.
just having one of those low days today.
Right. Totally. One of the stats that I was reading, and I also went to the website that that you've made, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that helps employers. So, automotive collision industry, you can go to this website and get some resources for help. But one of the things I was reading was experts say that 1 in 5 adults have some type of mental health issue every year. So, and I felt like that number was actually not enough. I feel like more than 1 in 5.
Yeah, and you know what's hard about that statistic is you're surveying people that don't want to be surveyed, right?
Ah,
So,
right.
just reaching out to our staff, or um, that survey was more about diagnosed mental health
Mm,
issues.
okay, that
And
makes more
so the
sense.
majority of all of us are, undiagnosed. Why are we undiagnosed? Is because we've never, sought out help, possibly, or counseling, or so on.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, and we think a
you're
lot of
right.
this is culture based. Like this is our culture. This is the way we are today. As we are high wired, going a million miles a minute. Doesn't everybody have anxiety? Doesn't everybody deal with depression? It's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Actually, we should not be in this state. So yeah, I thought that number at first I was like, wow, 1 in 5. And I thought, man, I bet you it's probably like 1 in 2, 1 in 3,
Right.
or but just 1 in 1. Everybody's dealing with something. So because you dealt with this personally, I know you've then had a heart to help others, which I think is the most beautiful piece of it. So share with us how you've or what you've done and your heart posture and however you want to explain it because now, especially now, you have a bazillion people working for you. So how are you helping assist others being in the leadership capacity that you're in now?
Well, I'd actually like to thank my staff because they're the reasons why I'm so transparent. Um,
Mm,
so, before I ended up seeing a psychologist and getting tested and so on there, and then I ended up getting medicated. Well, I just kept drinking during the medication, so
ah,
everything just kept getting worse. Depression just kept getting worse.
mm,
So then I ended up just stopping all that altogether and just kind of being miserable for the next 5 years, and then wanted to readdress it. But it was my staff where I started being transparent to a few of like my peers in the business. And then it just became a lot easier to talk about it because of
yeah.
the few people. And then they were opening up to me, and I'm realizing, wow,
Mm,
this is easy to talk about when you have people accepting you. Um,
yes.
and I think that's the message is acceptance.
Yeah.
It's really hard when there's people that don't have mental health situations, and it's really hard for them to acknowledge or understand people that do. And I
Totally.
think that's trying. There's two people that I'm talking to. It's the people like that have the mental health situations. I'm saying, hey, being vocal, transparent, all that, owning it, so on. And then there's the other people where people that don't understand, and teaching them how to work with people with anxiety or ADHD, bipolar, working with their staff, communicating with their staff, because people that don't suffer from these issues, just it's hard for them to get it,
Of
right?
course.
And they put a brand on somebody, as in the lazy or not caring
Mm,
or so on,
mm,
when it's so
mm.
much more.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, my brother actually was telling a story. He's actually a pastor, and I was listening to him. He lives like a couple hours away from me, so I listen to him virtually on Sunday mornings before I go to my own church, and he was sharing that growing up, he had seen people and heard people, and he's worked in situations. Funny because he's a pastor, just being very real. And he said, people would talk about their anxiety, and he was like, yeah, 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 yeah. I have some empathy for them, but like, how bad could it really be? And then he said the week before he had his first ever panic attack. And he said it was the absolute worst thing that had ever happened to him. He was so scared. He thought he was going to die physically, all these physical symptoms and everything. And he said, then he just felt this heaviness, like, wow, this deep understanding of what these people have been talking about. And they've been sharing that they're struggling with this. And in his mind, previously, I'd been like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then once he had that and had that experience of it, and that, being a personal experience, it was like, holy cow, wow, back up the bus. So I think you're exactly right. Oftentimes people they can't understand, you don't know what you don't know kind of thing. Not because you're not a caring person or a loving person, but sometimes you just don't get it because you don't deal with it. And unless you personally have dealt with something like that, or you've been educated, which I think is part of your mission, or you have somebody that is close to you that deals with it and you see them dealing with it day in and day out and you understand, even still, unless you've personally dealt with it, you really, I don't think, truly can understand the depths of the difficulties of something like that.
It's hard to imagine somebody, a situation where it's impossible to even put one foot in front of the other sometimes,
Yeah,
mentally or in your chest or anything like that.
right.
And so, yeah, just to be able to tell people this stuff exists is an awesome thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as for everybody listening, even if you're not a manager or an owner, we still work with each other and having that human compassion for one another, just to have a more well rounded workplace, a respected and loving workplace, to understand different people are going through different things. We've all got our stuff, it just looks different.
And you know what? And talking through that workplace comment, what I love is, when I speak about this or speak to a facility or just, in general, a performance group, whatever, when somebody asks me, hey, I have a employee that, I know has ADHD, tells me, which is awesome, the communication side of it, but they're like, how do I manage them?
Mm,
I'm like, oh, girl, there's so much that has to do with this. It's not just being hyper and not being able to focus. It's so much more. It could
yeah,
be getting hyper focused in something, or it could be completely shutting down and can't focus on anything.
yeah,
So she was asking me, well, like, that's what she was confused about. This person's ADHD, but this person might just shut down during the day. And I said, yeah, that is, overload for them. The best thing that you can do in that scenario is start with a small task. And that's with
mm,
home too. If somebody is struggling at home and, is overwhelmed, the easiest thing that they can do is do the smallest task. And I tell you, then it turns into um, this waterfall effect where then, okay, now it kind of almost jumpstart their brain where now they're going to do this, and then they're almost like back to their motivation again.
right,
That's what's awesome. Like ADHD, for instance, it's not necessarily, as much of a struggle. It could be a superpower as well, right? Because
right.
you're able to multitask. You're so productive doing different things. You might have six screens on your computer, whatever. But then there's the time where you shut down because it is too much.
Mm,
Well, that's where you have to be able to, know how do you get started back up again, or a manager, estimator, or coworker, whoever. They need to know how to jumpstart that person.
yeah,
Or it just might be taking that person out of the environment, sitting and
yeah,
just chatting. If you're judging that person or coming down on that person's going to shut down even more.
for sure.
I'm gonna repeat that again. If somebody's going to come down and not know the root cause of somebody and come down and judge and this and that with an employee, they're going to shut down even more. And what
Yeah.
happens there? Their work-life balance is going to suck even more. They're going to not like work as much because now, everything is just a struggle, and they're going to just try to find something else or
Yeah.
try to find another job, and then they'll have that struggle in that other job until they have acceptance, or they're just going to be freaking miserable and unsocial.
Mm.
Yeah, that is the big thing of just the communication, and it's hard as males. I think more than anything is to talk about our feelings or approach
Mm.
somebody and talk about their feelings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That needs to be normalized a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing that I learned in reading through the data that you were sharing was that the automotive industry were super high stress, and we have one of the highest level of suicide rates of any industry. I had no idea.
For sure. And then you got to think too about the heavy military presence that we have in this industry too, right?
Yes.
With people that have been in the military and transitioned to the collision business with PTSD, mental
Mm.
health. And it is sad. It's sad reading on Facebook, that somebody's taken their life,
Yeah.
and you see, why they've taken their life. I'm not going to throw a fake statistic out there, but I mean, every time you see someone take their life, what's the reason why? It's
Mm.
depression, it's anxiety,
Mhm.
it's there's nobody there for them, or they feel like nobody's there for
Right.
them. They can't put that one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And so, communicating with somebody might be saving a life, and that's
Yeah.
huge.
Wow. That is huge. Yeah. Communicating with somebody may save a life. That is huge. Uh, Now, for you and your team, what I thought was really cool is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that I read it is you guys offer as part of your healthcare package is free mental health support for each employee, and not just the employees, but for their families. Did I read that right?
Yeah, and they don't have to be on our healthcare program to receive
Oh,
this.
wow.
Every single employee receives this, and everyone in their household has it as well. So zero cost mental health coverage.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, you know what? We realize, we're not just employing employees. You talk about being a family business. Well, that's pretty much what our business is families. And somebody is going to be going home and, happy employees, or you create happy employees with happy households as well. Or
Hmm.
there might be
Yeah.
a loved one where we're educating the employee about mental health, but they're going home, and it's so hard then to convey that information to a significant other or their kids. What I love about our program is it's normalizing mental health and being able to talk to a counselor, talk to anybody, to people's kids. That's actually
Mm.
the biggest reward I keep hearing about with employees is the fact that, and I encourage this, put your kids, get counseling for your kids just to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Normalize this. You don't want your kid to grow up, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or whatever, and struggle and not know how to reach out and get help or just talk to somebody,
Right.
or a significant other. Sometimes,
Mm.
married couples, sometimes it's embarrassing talking about a moment or this or that, but
Right.
getting it off your chest to somebody in counseling is amazing. It doesn't have to be a doctor, could just be a counselor. And so what I love about this program is it normalizes it for the whole household. And it's so easy for them to do because there's options for in person, there's options for
Mhm.
texting, the
Mm.
virtual. Now there's AI, which I love, because if anyone doesn't want to tell their problems to a human being for some reason, we're okay telling it to AI, and there's amazing AI programs out there that are free that you can
Mm.
just talk to AI, they respond back. And
Right.
like I've utilized it as well. Chat GPT actually has, a GPT on there that's psychiatric, and you could,
Really?
actual conversation, not typing, actual conversation, and talk to AI, and just even if you're just venting about the day, that's awesome.
Right?
There's
Wow.
somebody here, and you almost trick yourself because AI sounds so real. You're almost tricking yourself into actually feel like you're talking to a person.
Yeah.
And the response back, there's empathy, when there's
Mm.
response back.
Hmm.
You don't necessarily, when you're talking to someone and venting to somebody, um, uh, you don't really, need that person per se to solve their problem.
Yes.
You're looking for empathy, right? You're
Yes.
looking just for somebody to listen.
Right.
Uh, and that's what actually is amazing about AI as well.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it, and more people adopt it. And the cool thing, and the reason why more and more people are adopting it, is because the managers talk about it, the estimators, and the people that are
Mm.
utilizing it and normalizing therapy to their peers.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier with that.
That's so cool. So I'm sure that's what led you to starting Break the Stigma, which,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you chat about.
Well, I mean, once again, I thank my coworkers and staff for that. It came up in a leadership meeting about, possibly, like trying to find a nonprofit to support. We spread
Mm.
it out between multiple nonprofits, and we still do. But someone suggested, Andy, why don't you start something on mental health?
Mm.
You're so transparent about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we need, is another project, right?
Yeah.
But like, I loved it, and like I loved the support that everybody was giving me, and then us starting to build, a board, and kind of what it's starting to turn into is absolutely amazing. But honestly, it has a lot to do with, that my staff really encouraging me to do it and being a support structure of developing this. So
Wow.
yeah, we came out with it. Gosh, it's probably a couple of years now. And, I'm almost to the point now where I'd love to get that executive director,
Mm.
to take it to a place that I would love to have the time for,
Yeah.
and, be larger in the industry and in a larger presence.
Yeah.
So, and I know a lot of it has to do with, we want to be raising money and funds and sponsors and so on. And I know we're at that point now where, we're ready for that next step, which, I feel pretty proud of everybody for doing that.
Heck yeah. It's super cool. So we'll put a link in the description, but it's brake, like a brake on a car. So BRAKE, the stigma.com. And what's cool about it is you guys have resources on there. So if you're a shop owner, there's a different set of resources for you. If you're an employee of a shop, there are resources for you, which is nice. So I'm thinking for like shop owners listening to this, thinking, man, that's fantastic. I would love to roll something like this out for my people. This is where they would go then to this website to get help, like next steps and how to do that, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited because we're redoing the website and we're almost done with it. Because of how much feedback I've gotten in the past 6 months outside of the industry, I've also learned more of the needs of the industry.
Ah,
And so, being actually more specific in there with the resources, I'm realizing, is important, like how to manage certain people,
yeah.
or getting them to talk about it. What kind of atmosphere is
Mm.
best to sit down and talk to somebody about it? It's funny, actually, the colors on the website are actually the colors that are most receptive to ADHD.
Oh, wow.
They're able to acknowledge information the best. Just so there's so many details to it that I realize, okay, we need to take a different direction with this
Mm.
website. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love all the action it's gotten, and the clicks, and the people utilizing the resources. And, just reading, even if you're not utilizing the resources, just reading it and understanding things a little bit more just makes you, a more well-rounded person
For
for
sure.
staff.
Absolutely. Yeah, the website I think is great to be able to push people to. And the benefit, I mean, beyond just being a good human and learning more about other people so that we can just be better loving humans, there is a benefit with this to their work and their output at work, I would imagine. And I think you guys talk about that a little bit on the website. I think it was, that's where I read it.
Yeah, surveying staff members, 80% of staff members or people in the industry say, if there was better mental health support, there would be an improvement in my performance.
Wow.
And that was cool, especially, surveying people that don't like talking about mental health, saying that if they have better resources or being able to, talk about it and just their staff or their bosses acknowledging it, that
Mm.
there's 80% of them say there's an increase in performance, waiting right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool to see. It really is. And so now we know it's not just about boost cycles or motivation or SOPs or so on. It's about this business is about people's feelings too.
Right. Yeah, and we get so caught up in the metrics and the driving the business forward and how many ROs did you close and all the things that we're forgetting the people that make the whole thing run. And people are complex. We're complex folks, and it's like, I think forgetting that. That's why I wanted to talk about it today because so much of who we are and what we're able to do as humans is it's all internal. And when we're not making sure that we're in alignment internally, it's very difficult to push out our best. And I think we all want to be our best and do our best, but it's tough when we've got the things that we don't know how to deal with and we're just trying to suss through it and you're just trying to push through to get through every day. And I know when I have spoken with therapists or counselors and worked through things, I'm happier. It's like a pressure release valve. Like
Mhm.
it's you let that pressure out and you've spoken to somebody. Like I feel like that way with church for me. Like it's that pressure release valve. It's letting things go and getting things out or talking with somebody so that when you're back in your work environment, you can be you're not so on edge. You can hear better. You can process more cleanly because you don't have all the noise. Like the beehive. I had a performance coach and he's like, Micki, your beehive is strong. And I'm like, it's so loud. It's so loud in this beehive. And once I could get that to calm down, I was a better mom, a better wife, better at my job, better with my employees, better with my clients.
And you say that, and I go to meditation,
Mm,
and I wish I did it more because it sucks. Because meditation for me, of like just sitting there and into quiet and not doing anything, that's my meditation, right? And
yeah.
if I can do that for 10 minutes, it amazes me when
Yeah.
I come out of it, like how relaxed my shoulders are, my face, my muscle, my brain.
Totally.
Because usually like it takes about 6 or 7 minutes to work through like the cloudiness, the negativity, and this and that, and then the final 3 or 4 minutes or whatever is the relaxed epiphany and release. And it sucks for me because I know that's my solution, and
Hmm.
I push it. It's so hard for me to actually like, for some reason, take 10 minutes, but it's easy for me to run TikTok for 20
Yeah.
minutes, just to sit there and per se meditate.
Yeah.
But like that's the biggest suggestion outside of counseling that I have for people that are having that rough time, even at work, is trying to get rid of as much distraction as possible, putting down the phone in the other room and all that, and
Yeah.
just sit and
Yep.
just sit for 10 minutes.
Right.
Um, and just say, hey, telling your staff, hey, you know what? My mind's going crazy, this and that. I'm just going to go and I'm just going to take a second to just sit for 10 minutes, or someone go
Absolutely.
sitting in their car for 10 minutes. It's amazing what comes out of that. And so these are things that I teach other shops and other
Mhm.
facilities, and, you know, teaching their employees and having the bosses and the owners okay with it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so having that mediation involved is so awesome. And I would love,
Yeah.
for us to be able to do that on a more broad basis and touch more collision facilities and automotive facilities.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying, it is hard to do. And it's really silly because we know it's the best thing for us. I can attest. I'm a huge meditation girl. And when I was dealing with so many debilitating health issues, and I've spoken with this a lot in the past, but to the point where I couldn't leave the house. I could barely walk down to the mailbox to get my mail. It was crazy.
Wow.
And once I worked more through it, I realized so much of it was all the stress and anxiety I'd put myself through for years and years and years and never dealt with it. And so what I started doing was my habit was to wake up the second I woke up, didn't give myself an opportunity or option to do anything else, but I would go into my closet. I have a small little walk-in closet, close the door, and either sit silently for 10 to 15 minutes, or if my brain started to buzz, I'll use that term, I had like a few guided meditations on YouTube
Mhm.
that I found that were just quiet and just kind of would guide me through like gratitude or something like that. And it would be like a 10-minute something. And I started my day out every day like that. And my health issues, and in the beginning, I was doing every morning, every night. And during the day, I would take breaks and do that if I felt like it was needed. And my health issues started to get better as I started implementing these things. And it's insane how helpful it is for you. It's the last thing we want to do, but it's the best thing for us. And it's allowing yourself to go do it, especially when you're a busy go person. You're like, I don't have time. I have so many other things. You're like, it's 10 minutes. Like you said, I'll spend an hour and 10 minutes scrolling through Instagram, watching videos and giggling to myself. Like I can do 10 minutes. But I would say like starting the day out quiet,
Mhm.
it helps you more calmly go through your day. And like you were saying, if you're in a work situation where you're stress filled, and I'll have those days where it's like, whoa, I need a minute. I'll just walk outside and sit quietly without my phone, without anything. And it's amazing what that small little time of decompression can do for you. I mean, it
Isn't that
is,
funny that it's so hard to do nothing for 10 minutes?
yeah,
But the
right.
results of it, yeah. So I
Yeah.
would suggest with people that that's like an instant free thing that somebody can do, right? You can do the silent meditation or the guided, like you said. If you have a music membership or Apple
Mm,
Music or whatever, or just like you said, searching on YouTube for guided meditation for a stressful moment or anxiety, you just search 10-minute guided meditation for anxiety,
yeah.
and then somebody that talks for 10 minutes, and, talks you through something or so on. And people that haven't tried it, I suggest doing it. Maybe not driving and falling asleep, but
Yeah.
I suggest trying to do nothing for 10 minutes just once, or
Mhm.
trying to go through a guided meditation just once.
Yeah.
I guarantee you're not going to come out of that worse. And you're not going to even come out of that the same. You're going to come out of that meditation better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because our brain wants to push back on it, especially when you have ADHD and your brain wants to be doing so many things.
Yeah.
It can take a minute. So maybe your first time, you're like, I don't really know how that went. But once you do it a few times and you're like, okay, this is what it's supposed to feel like, and you practice it a few times, then it can be really beneficial. I know I did it with my husband, and he was like, I just couldn't quiet my brain the whole time. I really struggled with it. And I'm like, keep at it. Just keep trying. And then as he did it by like the third, fourth time, he was like, wow, that was really nice. Yeah.
And you say quieting your brain. That's actually what I hear is the most difficult for people. And there's this thing called, having a mantra or having this word or so on. Actually, I use the word, nothing. So every time something passes through my head, I say nothing and try to wipe it like out of my
Mm.
brain while I have my eyes shut. And it like every single idea or something that comes out of my head, I think to myself, nothing. And then I just try to think of like darkness or black, what have you. And for me, that's impossible. But then 7, 8 minutes come by and you start getting blank. So don't like
Yeah.
meditate and feel like it's just going to be instant or this or that. Like it
Right.
might take like a second time, or it might take the ninth minute for your brain to actually like
True.
sit down and what have you there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's something that I need to practice what I preach as well.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. It's so easy to, that's the first thing to go. It seems like that's the easiest thing to get rid of, but it's the most impactful. I get it.
Uh,
I live it, brother. I get it. Um, well, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're a busy guy. You have a bazillion stores you got to get to and talk to people and all the things. But I really hope that people will go visit the website and start learning more and start doing more. And I think offering something like this up for your employees, if you're a shop owner, and even if you're not a shop owner, give the link to the shop owner and let them listen to this. I think if we can get this messaging out, everybody needs to hear it. Whether you're struggling, you have struggled, you've never struggled, it doesn't matter. We're all people. And education in this area, I think, is so important. That's why I was so excited when you agreed to come on and talk about this. I'm like, this is so cool. Quick question for you, though, before I let you run. For shop owners, like putting my shop owner hat back on for a second, if I'm thinking, yes, I want to include this and start doing that for my people, where do you begin rolling something like this
well, everybody that has health insurance can talk to their health insurance provider
out? Okay.
and just see what kind of coverage they have.
Okay.
So to start off, you want people to at least know what your health coverage has. And if it doesn't have mental health coverage, it doesn't cost much to have it. If
Okay.
you want to go to the length of offering it to all your staff or your staff's home or family, you can ask your health insurance. There's one program called Employee Assistance Program,
Okay.
and actually that has that included
Mm.
in it. So talking to your healthcare provider is huge, but encouraging just the individual to find out, what mental health benefits your health insurance has, and just call your health insurance and find a provider and make an appointment with a counselor.
Yeah.
And if you're intimidated saying because the counselor is 3 months from now, I
Mm.
challenge you to go online on chat and just search AI, mental health support or whatever, and talk
Mm.
to an AI. Or it's just cool to look at.
Yeah.
Or try that meditation I talked about,
Mm.
and sit for 10 minutes and meditate. Challenge yourself, the listeners that are listening right now, challenge yourself to do, one or all of those things, in the next day or so.
Yeah.
Uh, and make that small change.
Yeah.
It honestly is going to change you. And I'll tell you, it's going to change everybody around you because
Mm.
it makes you a lot more pleasurable to be around too, which is great.
Yes, I agree. My family also agrees.
Yeah, my staff or my wife might say, Andy, go eat or Andy, go meditate.
Yes,
Uh, you need it right now. And so,
right.
it's funny, but it's true.
Yep. Yeah, I'm laughing because I live it. So I totally
Yep.
get it. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for chatting about not just this, but thank you for just being such a light in the industry. You're such a positive guy. You're doing so many great things for the industry as a whole. You've got a great team there. Just really happy and proud to call you a friend and compadre in the crazy automotive industry, trying to move things forward, doing good things. Like it's just so great to have people like you out there.
I appreciate it. It makes me feel good hearing it. So thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, everybody. So the links are all in the description for all of the things that we talked about today. And then, Andy, if they have questions a little bit more detailed, is there like an informational email that they can reach out to, or what's the best way to contact somebody?
There is, and most of the time, I'm the one that's answering it, just
Okay.
because this is something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I have zero problem with somebody reaching out to me directly, or I love when people reach out to me directly and tell me their story, or just
Yeah.
want somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
That's what friends are for. That's what we all are in for.
Right. I love that. Okay. Well, I'll put your contact information.
You got
Now that you've given me the approval, I'm going to blast it out to everybody.
it.
But yeah, take advantage and so many good takeaways. I hope that everybody listening moves forward with something today. Take a step forward, even just one step. It's the start of more. So that's what I would encourage you all to do today. But Thank you all for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time a new episode drops, and like the video. It will tell YouTube that this is a great video and share it. YouTube will use its fantastic algorithm funkiness to push it out to more people in the industry so we can get this messaging out to more people. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever that is, if you click the follow button, you'll also get alerted when a new episode drops. But we're just so grateful for all of our listeners. We're grateful for wonderful guests like Andy. And Andy, I'm sure I'm going to be bumping into you sometime soon.
Love you all. Just remember, everybody, you're enough.
You are
Thank you
enough.
very much.
That's awesome. Love it. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.